But now we're in the true history of Chapter 3, Season 4, and this is what happened after the collapse of the United Fortnite Republic. After the collapse, Seeker had emplaced many of his own guys that owned many different nations, and Depolar Moon was subject down to the south of the island, owning the racetrack and Synapse Station and a little bit of Butterbarn. Josh's original VP was nowhere to be seen, but he made a good friend while Josh was gone. He made this new person, Zomboozle, his new VP, and Zomboozle had his own nation that owned the Rave Cave and Logjam Lotus. This nation was the Anzac Nation. There was only 3 nations that had names. It was the United Fortnite Republic, the United Fortnite Federation, and the Anzac Nation. The rest of the nations never had names, since they were the only names of the players. But Depolar Moon's task was to unite everyone somehow and then fight Seeker once again. Depolar Moon started his new strategy on talking to PBJ, that was his northern neighbour that owned Rocky Reels and Greasy Grove. Depolar Moon went to PBJ and said to him join his nation and he'll still own his land but as a state governor. PBJ was hesitant, and plus PBJ was a strong supporter of Seeker and was like Seeker's right hand man at the time. But this didn't really mean anything to PBJ, as he just wanted to control his territory. So with tough negotiations, PBJ decided to side with Depolar and give him his territory. With PBJ back in with the United Fortnite Republic, it was now Zomboozle's turn. Zomboozle and Depolar Moon were working together in this task. Depolar Moon was tasked on uniting the south, and Zomboozle was tasked on uniting the north. Zomboozle's sights were set on Sleepy Sounds and Grim Gates, and he talked to the person there, and after tough negotiations, he annexed that nation. To be honest, I can't remember who was the person that was in that middle nation there, but he didn't really last long at all, as Zomboozle took the nation for the Anzac Nation. With that success, Zomboozle then went to the person that owned the volcano. This person was named Lucifer. Lucifer was a strong Seeker supporter, but Lucifer loved Zomboozle as they were close friends. So Zomboozle, with tough negotiations, said let's do a dual monarchy where Lucifer and Zomboozle both owned the nation. But Zomboozle was secretly planning to backstab Lucifer. As soon as Lucifer agreed, Zomboozle seized full control and Lucifer no longer had her nation at all. This was another great success for the Anzac Nation, and in general, great success for Depolar Moon and Zomboozle. During this time, Tilted Towers was unoccupied, but so Seeker got Depolar Moon's ally Indohazard, that was his military general, to occupy that region. This was a great success for Depolar Moon, as he also had another ally on his side. But meanwhile, up near the Reality Tree was run by Salamander, and before Seeker handed over the keys to Tilted Towers to Indohazard, he used that land to invade the Reality Tree and kick Salamander out, as he wanted his friend Error to own that area. Salamander was greatly mad and joined up with the United Fortnite Republic, joining with Depolar Moon. This was bad for Depolar Moon, since Depolar Moon's next sites were on the Reality Tree, but since Error now owned the Reality Tree, Salamander would be mad if Error joined the nation. So after the long thinking, Error and Salamander both sat down with each other, since Depolar Moon wanted them to talk it out and become friends again. And Depolar Moon showed them that their true enemy was Seeker, and they both agreed and sided with each other. And then Error said, "Hey, I'll join your nation, Depolar Moon," meaning Error was a new part of the nation for the United Fortnite Republic, and he still owned that region as a state. During this time, there was a mad scientist that controlled the islands near the sanctuary. He was like a rip-off of Purple Ether, but just much more lamer, since he was a full Seeker supporter. But shortly after he joined the server, he left it. So Seeker announced that the islands were up for claims, and all you had to do was take a picture of you on the island with a flag on it, and you would have the island. The Polar Moon saw the opportunity and quickly boated over there, claiming all of the islands of the Sanctuary. This was another great success since there was only two main nations. There was Lockdown's nation that had the whole Sanctuary, and there was Seeker's nation that owned Kondo Canyon and the Joneses. Then the Polar Moon told his ally Indo Hazard to finally unite with him since they were starting to get to the end game of their goal, to finally defeat Seeker. The Anzac Nation, led by Zomboozle, and the United Fortnite Republic, led by the Polar Moon, started to talk and started to set up their plans on invading Lockdown and Seeker. But then Seeker started finally catching on what they were doing and confronted them both. Seeker told the two that he knew what they were planning. He knew that they were planning to finally take back the island from him. So Seeker started threatening with war, and the Polar Moon and Zomboozle saw what was happening and united, with the Anzac Nation going for now. Seeker said that this would not go unrecognized and started blowing up, saying that this is outrageous and everything, and how dare you do this, and then he gave up. Seeker saw what was happening and just gave up and moved into Lockdown's nation, and he said, "I'm giving the nation to you, the Polar Moon." He had given up just like that, without a fight, but the Polar Moon was like, "Sure, why not?" and claimed this victory. Seeker was in Lockdown's nation, and Lockdown was hardly in his nation since he was visiting colonies during this time. So that meant the island was free from Seeker. Well, kinda, he was in Lockdown's territory, but overall the island was back in their control, and the Polar Moon and Zomboozle decided that they were planning to declare war on Lockdown unless he handed over Seeker and joined the nation. But this was a great success. The Polar Moon announced it across the whole island, and everyone celebrated. But as everyone was celebrating, Josh came back and said, "That's banish Seeker. Banish him into the 0 point until Chapter 4. Everyone heard this and started chanting, "Banish Seeker until Chapter 4. So as a democratic leader myself, I hosted an election, and the Polar Moon hosted this election saying, "Do you want Seeker to be banished, or do you want Seeker to stay?" And everyone voted in favor of banishing Seeker until Chapter 4. And just like that, Seeker was banished, but not really, because he was still hiding out in Lockdown's territory. So Zomboozle and the Polar Moon and the rest of the server united against Seeker, declared war on Lockdown, and Seeker was not ready for it. Seeker was so scared that he kept on hiding in the Sanctuary's area, saying that you can't invade Lockdown's nation until Lockdown comes back. But we did not care because Lockdown kept on not responding. So we went in chasing after Seeker, but Seeker somehow convinced one of our own. He convinced Error to rise up and start a revolution at Tilted Towers. With Error at Tilted Towers, we did many negotiations since we didn't want to hurt Error since he was just being manipulated by Seeker. So we had long talks and said, "Hey, you can own Tilted Towers if you want," and he called his nation the AFK Nation. But then we told him, just join back with the main nation and you can have that area as a state. This state was called the AFK State and only contained Tilted Towers, and Tilted Towers quickly joined back with the Union. As the Sanctuary and Lockdown's nation fell to the United Fortnite Republic, Seeker was soon captured. Seeker was brought to the 0 point and thrown into the 0 point and was banished until Chapter 4. And this was a great victory for the United Fortnite Republic and the end of Seeker for now. With the island now united, Seeker was now gone, and everyone was happy and started celebrating. But there was one problem. This chromed liquid was spreading across the whole island. The Polar Moon did not know anything about it. He tried contacting the 7, but then realized that the 7 was gone. And then the 0 point spoke out a prophecy saying that the next island is coming soon. Chapter 4 is coming next season. And everyone realized that Seeker would return, and the Polar Moon had to make a choice. The choice being to bring back Seeker now and preemptively strike Seeker when he's still not ready, or get ready to fight Seeker in Chapter 4. But Dipolar Moon realised that the only way to defeat Seeker as soon as possible is to defeat him now, so he chose the first option. Without Seeker noticing, he was brought back onto the island with his army, and the final war started. World War III started. Seeker soonly occupied Sleepy Sounds and started looting up, realizing what was happening. But Dipolar Moon's forces quickly found him and started chasing him out of Sleepy Sounds. Sleepy Sounds was a brutal battle, but Seeker fled and ran to Chrome Crossroads and was quickly defeated there, and ran to the Sanctuary and was quickly defeated there and ran to Rocky Reels. See, Seeker's army was heavily unprepared and not ready for this, so he just kept on running from the United Fortnite Republic's army, and this was a great victory. He then ran from Rocky Reels to Greasy Rose, and ran to Reality Tree, to the Rave Cave, to Logjam Lotus, and back to the Shifty Shafts, where the final battle started. And the battle started and ended within 3 hours of fighting. Just like the Battle of the Bridge, it was brutal, but this was a really quick victory, as Seeker's army was still heavily unprepared, and Seeker seeked to talk to Dipolar Moon. He then talked to Dipolar Moon and wanted to surrender, but this was his terms. He said that he wanted to go through the 0 point and create his own copy of the island, but where he controls it. Basically split off from this world, from this universe. Dipolar Moon was shocked, as he was willing to turn a new leaf even after 3 betrayals in with Seeker, but Seeker was like, no, I need to go to my own reality. So Seeker and his army went through the 0 point, ending the war and defeating Seeker finally once and for all. But then it happened. The Herald showed up. Chrome started spilling everywhere across the island, and all the loopers ran to the Reality Tree and get ready for their last stance against the Herald. They knew that the 0 point would protect them, but they would try and protect this island at all costs, even though they knew that Chapter 4 was just around the corner. So they fought, but the Herald defeated them, but then the 0 point destroyed the island. But this was all part of the plan, as the Paradigm, the last member of the 7, initiated Zero Fusion, bringing all of these chunks from the different realities to form the next island, the Chapter 4 island. The loopers that were lost to Chrome were free from it, and started travelling towards this new island, and this was the start of Chapter 4, the island, and now we're at a new beginning, where the United Fortnite Republic without Seeker is now there to reign, and this will be continued in the next chapter, Chapter 4 Season 1. Just to quickly mention as well, I didn't add a couple of things in this video, such as Seeker's multiple personalities and the colonies that we discovered during Chapter 3, but these will be in detailed videos in the future, talking about what Seeker was like during Chapter 3 and what the colonies that we discovered during Chapter 3, but I wanted this video to be mainly about Chapter 3 only. So anyway, thank you for watching, and see you in Chapter 4 Season 1.